Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Suzy Rosenstein.
Hey there, today we're talking about money, specifically how to get out of debt, save, and invest without a strict budget in midlife. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Suzy Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. Now, as you probably know, I help women just like you stop wasting valuable time. It is so frustrating to be stuck and you just see the time wasting away. My mission is to help you stop living like time doesn't matter, because it does. Now, today's episode is inspired by the topic of money and time sensitivity, because at our age, it's not just about debt, saving, and investing, but we're highly sensitive to our age and how long it will take. That is, how much time we have to do this before we run out of time, or, before we die. That's really part of what's going on up there, right? We're thinking like that. This sense of urgency can add another wrinkle to the whole thing, too. Like so much of what we coach on here on the Women in the Middle podcast, today's Money Mindset Deep Dive is really based on getting clarity about your priorities and then living in a way that supports them. Sounds easy enough. Not so much. So in today's show, we're going to be exploring all of this good stuff with my amazing guest. But just quick, let's talk about amping up your happiness for a minute, shall we? I'm excited to share that I have a fun new little program for you that's just 2 weeks long. It's called the Midlife Happiness Jumpstart Experience. Just imagine, in 14 days, you'll experience what happens when you intentionally choose happiness, one small step at a time. What's so great about this is that you're going to realize that happiness is something that you can choose, create, and cultivate every single day. And here's the best part of the Midlife Happiness Jumpstart Experience. It only takes a few minutes a day. There are no regular Zoom meetings, no overwhelm, no big commitments, just small, tiny steps that feel so good to do. The next group is starting soon, so if you're ready to stop putting your happiness on the back burner and start inviting more of it in right now, this is for you. So join the Jumpstart today. Just head over to www.suzyrosenstein.com and click on the Shop tab, and you'll find it there. There will also be a link in the show notes for this episode, and I can't wait to share this happiness experience with you. Okay, now let's dive in. Today we're talking about how to get out of debt, save, and invest without a strict budget in midlife with Germaine Foley. Germaine Foley is a certified life and money coach for women who make good money but aren't building wealth. She helps them take control of their finances and build wealth without losing freedom to travel and or buy nice things. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Germaine came to this work because she found herself in over $200,000 worth of debt and with very little savings, even though she had a really good income. She figured out how to build wealth and enjoy life at the same time. And now she teaches that to other women so they can do the same. I know you're going to love meeting Germaine today and being part of this important conversation. So please enjoy this interview. Hi, Germaine. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzy. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
Yes, nothing like talking about money or lack thereof.
Oh my gosh. This is my favorite topic, so I'm excited as well.
Amazing. Well, I like to get started with thinking back to what was going on for you in your, the time where you were feeling a little bit off with money when things weren't working well for you. And then how you navigated through it. So what was that like for you when things just weren't working?
Oh my gosh. So just to give you the full story and to be transparent, my money used to be a hot mess. That's how I describe it.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because that's a reality for so many of us, at least sometime in our lives.
Absolutely. So for me, it happened pretty early on. I grew up right outside of Detroit. My parents were blue collar workers. And one of the things they really wanted for me and my sisters was that they wanted us to go to good schools because they figured education is the way to a better life. So they worked really hard to move us out into the suburbs. And when I arrived to school, I noticed that all the students had the latest and greatest jeans, sneakers. They drove cool cars. They just did all these things, and we couldn't afford that. So I subconsciously made a pact with myself that I was going to go to college, work really hard, get a great paying career so that I could buy whatever I wanted.
So that
And
really hit you, that compare and despair sort of idea about
yes,
money and what people have really hit you at a young age.
very young age. And I knew that I wanted those things, but we couldn't afford them. And I noticed that like the kids that went to school with me, their parents, they dressed differently for work, right? They wore fancier clothes, suits and dresses. And my family, my parents wore, uniforms. So I knew that there was something there, even at that young age, that I just wanted to try something different.
You know, it's so interesting. You just used the word fancy clothes. I just used fancy clothes in an example I gave my kids recently. It's so funny. I wonder if kids today think of it that way, but we thought of it as fancy clothes, even though we didn't know exactly what it was. So you noticed it wasn't a uniform. And in my
Hmm.
case, I think it was just like more intentional style. That I
Yeah.
think that's what I was getting at because my kids asked me questions and I had to really think, what am I talking about here?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my son, who's 17, asked me the other day, like, why are you so dressed up? And it was a weekend. I'm like, because I have to go somewhere. So they do see it. They do see a difference.
Sweatpants are so important now. When I was a kid, I remember nobody wore sweatpants until the end of high school. That's when people started to wear them. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. That really stands out to me. And it's so funny, but people go to school in sweatpants where we wouldn't have done that sort of thing.
Oh, no. That was like weekend clothes or clothes you wore around the house, but never to school.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, one of those things that changes along the years, but you definitely noticed a difference. So, what did you do then? Once you went to a good school.
Yes. So I did everything I set out to do. I went to college, I landed my dream job, and I hit my dream man. And instantly, we were six-figure earners when we combined our lives. And for me, to me, I thought that was rich. And so we lived it up. We bought all the things, we traveled, we bought our first house, cars. We just didn't tell ourselves no. And we were moving along just well, just fine until baby number two came. Even with baby number one, we were able to make it work. But when baby number two came, that's when things started to get a little tight because my daycare bill and my mortgage were the exact same amount of money. And that is when, we just started to really, I would say, lose control of our finances at that point.
Now, did you have awareness of what was going on? Did you catch on as quickly as maybe you would now?
I think that deep down I knew, but I kept telling myself that we make a lot of money, we'll figure it out.
Ah,
Right. And even today, I hear that from my clients a lot. So it's not until you have this wake up call, like, how am I going to pay pretty much two mortgages every single month and still keep the lights on and still feed my kids and still, do all the things? So I think the daycare bill situation, that's what really like just made me wake up and say, you can't keep living like this.
wow. I'm having a flashback as you're speaking. So I have three kids and they were born very close together. And I remember, the juggling of nursing and then formula. And then I went back to work and blah, blah, blah. And there was a 6 month period where three were in diapers and I was buying formula for, I think, two of them. And I just remember the bills all of a sudden, like you're saying, something's different now. It's way more expensive. I didn't anticipate it. And I didn't catch on right away because like you, I just thought we could manage it. We were doing fine. But it really was something to see those bills. Ah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, it was a lot. So then what happened?
So, whenever you're feeling stressed or worried, what do? You start Googling or going to the internet. At the time, Google wasn't a thing, but just started searching for answers. And a lot of options popped up. One was, all of the personal finance experts. They were just all saying the same thing. Like, okay, if you want to get out of debt, if you want to save, if you want to build wealth, you got to give up those lattes and you shouldn't be buying so many shoes. And that messaging just like made me cringe.
Lattes and shoes.
Lattes and shoes. I'm like, goodness, I can't have a latte. So there were other alternative options. I'm like, I'm going to try those things first. And those were kind of like those, quick fixes that just didn't work. I'll just be very transparent. We filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. In the
Wow.
US, that is for high income earners, people who make good money, but their finances are out of control, and it prevents creditors from harassing you. And you get 5 years to pay off the debts without, being harassed, and you are able to do it in a very structured way. And so I thought that was the answer.
But let me
But
just pause you. How did you
yeah,
even know about that? Was that when you were searching for
that's
solutions?
when I was searching.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought that would be easier than, giving up my lattes. So I know that's very funny. And honestly, looking back, I wouldn't change it for the world because now I like know that those things, they don't change who you are on the inside, right? It's a band-aid. It helps, in the moment, but it doesn't really create that lasting change that you're really looking for.
Well, when you think about this phase of your life, does it is it surprising to you, or is it, it all makes sense based on how I grew up or something I watched on TV or what my friends were doing? Just that it got out of control at that point in your life.
When I look back, it makes sense because I didn't have any financial education. I remember in high school, we had a class, they called it accounting, and we learned how to balance a checkbook. Like we literally had a little checkbook and we could write checks, but that was it. No one told me about debt. No one told me about investing. No one told me about the importance of having money set aside for life when it happens. So it's definitely not surprising. And then you take someone who grew up without a lot of money and now you give them more money. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense.
I remember that class that you're talking about in high school. We learned to write a check.
Hmm.
We learned to write a check. And it's so funny because I don't think I remember teaching my kids how to write a check, but they didn't learn it in school.
No,
Things
I
really are
mean,
different. I also remember when the kids went to school. I don't remember which kid it was, but we were on that special bank account for when they were in university. And my husband was watching it, and he was watching all this money being spent on food. And he says to me, "Do you think he knows how much he's spending at night on food?" Because we said we'll pay for daytime food, but nighttime food, that's on you. Like if you're going out with your friends or whatever. And he let him know, and he had no idea.
wow.
He
Yeah, it
had no,
sneaks up.
yeah. It's fascinating what we assume our kids know, and you know what, just your own awareness of what was going on and your mindset. It's real. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, because that story is so real, and the process of getting into that situation is so normal and like, it's just so common. So after you took that action, what did you do next? What was your game plan to make sure that you were successful?
Well, after that, I kept living the same way I was living. I was like, whoop-de-doo, they can't call me. I mean, literally, I was the same person. And so,
Ah.
again, I got to this point where I was just like stressed, overwhelmed, and worried about money all the time. And
Mhm.
that's when I was just like, okay, I've tried this thing here. It's not working. I'm still, living paycheck to paycheck. I'm still overspending. I'm still making poor decisions with my money. And then I had these kids that I wanted to create this amazing life for. And I knew I was teaching them. If I kept living this way. And once they, were older, they would see me struggling. They would see us struggling financially, and I would just perpetuate that for them. And so I knew I had to change. And so I went back to those personal finance experts that told me I had to give up my lattes. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I took those ideas to my husband and I said, listen, all we have to do is, because at this point, by the way, we had over $200,000 in debt. 100K was student loans, and the rest was just random, credit cards, personal loans, things like that. And I took the idea, I'm like, listen, I read these books and they say if we give up everything, vacations, restaurants, lattes, all of the kid activities, then maybe in about 10 years we could be debt free and we could have our lives back. And he looked at me literally like I was an alien. He's like, who are you? And what have you done with my wife? And he said something that changed everything. He said, Germaine, we have to do something. I agree with you, but we can't do it like that. And that's when the light bulb moment went off for me. Like, why do we have to do it like that? Like this all or nothing approach where you do nothing for the next, decades and wait until retirement to enjoy life. And so that's when I was just like, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to do both, how to build wealth and still enjoy our lives. And that's exactly what I did. And we paid off all the debt, built up. Right now, our net worth is over $500,000 and it grows all the time. And so here we are today.
Look at you leading your family.
Yay.
I have a question, very important question.
Yes.
Did you buy a frother to replace having to go pay for lattes?
You know what? I didn't. That was one of the things I was just like, I am not doing it this way. And so I'm like, I'm buying lattes. I can build wealth and go to Starbucks.
Amazing. Okay.
Yes.
So now you're on the bandwagon of, oh yeah, we can do this. When did you get the idea that you wanted to help other women do this?
Okay. So when it was over, I was just like, it was this thing where I was dreaming about it for so long. And it was like, okay, now what? And I'm a spiritual person, and I believe that God spoke to me and said, I did this not just for you, but for you to help others as well. Because there are so many other women in your situation that are making good money. Everything looks pretty on the outside. Everyone thinks they have it all together, but on the inside, they're suffering financially. And so I knew then that was what it was. It was just like, I knew there had to be more. This wasn't, it was like that restlessness feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you knew you had a gift, like to be able to fix your own problem. You said when it was over. How long did it take you for it to be over? And what does over mean?
8 years. And that is over meant all the debt was gone, all the consumer debt. So the student loans, we paid those off. They did not get forgiven. The consumer debt, the credit cards, the personal loans. We literally had no debts except for our mortgage at the time. And so, and I believe the reason why it took us a little longer was because we enjoyed life along the way. We didn't just give up everything, because I felt like that would be unsustainable. We would burn out. And so many people do burn out when they go that route.
Yeah. And it was a value. You really didn't want to live like that. It didn't seem realistic. And what was the thought, like what was the mindset shift for you that made it doable?
Well, when I told myself that I can do both, I can build wealth and enjoy life. And so that meant I had to get really, really clear on what it meant for me to enjoy life, because how I was living in the past really wasn't joyful. It was stressful. So I had to figure out what's important to me and start, spending money on those things, and then stop spending on the things that weren't important to me so that I can use that money to build up my wealth, to get out of debt, save, and invest.
Okay, so can you give us an example? Because this is such an important exercise. Joy is completely subjective, and joy at that phase of your life with your young children is, not everybody likes to do the same things. I remember taking the kids on a camping trip when my youngest was 3.5. So they were 3.5, 4.5, 5. And I remember thinking, this was stupid. I need the youngest kid to be a little bit older. Like even 1 year older would have
Yeah,
made a big difference and it would be more joyful, more relaxed. I could be more present because I wasn't as worried he was going to fall off a cliff. And it was, yeah, like I wanted to go camping, but it needed to be, and I didn't want to be in a tent. So we bought a pop-up tent trailer and that's how we managed it. So what were some of the things that you discovered other than lattes? But what were some of the, more important things? No, I'm not minimizing the importance of a good latte, but you know what I mean.
I do.
That you really didn't want to sacrifice.
Yes, so memories with my kids, just what you described. But it's interesting because as I hear you talk about the camping trips, I felt the same way about restaurants. Like I enjoyed going to a nice restaurant, but taking those kids, oh my gosh, it was a disaster. And I was just like, why are we doing this? And one of the things I noticed when we were, finally getting control of our finances was that we were spending a ton of money on restaurants with the kids. And it was always miserable because they were young, they didn't want to be there. And so that was something that we actually scaled back on. And we just decided that we were not going to go with the kids anymore. And we would use that as like our date nights and things like that. So that was one of them. Making sure that our kids were able to participate in extracurricular activities that were important to us at the time and to them. And then vacations. That was something that was very important as well.
So did you go from 3 vacations to 1 vacation, or how did you come up with a vacation plan that worked for you?
Yes. So one family vacation, some years, it was a big one. Like we went to Disney or something like that. And other times we live in Michigan, we would go up north and just, stay at a cabin on one of the resorts or go to a water park or something like that. So we kind of flip-flop there and we made it work that way. And then also a getaway for my husband and I. And it was kind of the same situation where sometimes it was just a getaway, a couple hours away, or sometimes we did something big, especially if it was an anniversary, like a milestone anniversary.
Yeah, I get it. I remember that other realization, other than the baby formula diaper 6 months. It was that we couldn't do dinner, a movie, and a babysitter. We could go to dinner or we could go to a movie, but to do dinner, movie, including the babysitter, it was just too much. And
Hmm.
there was a period of time, I don't remember how long it was, but it's just not, we can't afford this. It's too much. So that was, sometimes it takes, maybe because you're exhausted too, it takes a little while to figure this stuff out.
It does. It does. And just that realization, it frees up so much money. Once you stop like just spending recklessly and mindlessly, it just frees you up to do so much more.
Oh, amazing. Now, one of the things you said in your notes is that you started questioning what impact you wanted to have and whether or not you were fully using your gifts. So, was that related to the work that you were doing before you pivoted into helping women with money?
It was that for sure. And I work full time even while I help people with money. But yeah, I felt like I wanted to do something that was like innately mine. I don't know. I feel like my story and that I was able to accomplish it, that was just something that was very unique to me. Of course, other women have done this, but the way I did it, the way I think about it, the people I can help, my story growing up is unique. And there are so many women that could use this story as inspiration and then also that I teach as well.
Amazing. And what you talk so much about is that we can't just go slapping band-aids on our financial situation, that it really comes down to mindset. So can you tell us a little bit about what is a common mindset situation for your clients?
Oh, yeah. So I think one of the first things that women think is kind of what I thought that you have to sacrifice your life in order to get your money under control, in order to build wealth. And it is something that society has fed us. I mean, like I said before, all of the personal finance experts were saying everything you need to cut out and then wait until, you're retired to enjoy life. And I think so many women, they just don't want to do it. And so they don't. and they tell themselves that they'll figure it out later, and they avoid their finances, and they just live. But once you figure out, like what I call the do both method, that you can actually do both at the same time. You can build wealth. And when I say build wealth, I'm talking about paying off debt if you have high interest debt, making sure you have plenty of cash that's available to you for emergencies or when life happens, and then also investing and taking advantage of compounding interest. That's what Albert Einstein calls the eighth wonder of the world. So if you're doing those three things, you can still enjoy life at the same time, but you have to figure out what it means, because spending on any and everything without regards to your money and to your future is not enjoying life.
Right. And is that something that is a difficult concept for people to get their head around?
Sometimes they don't believe me that it's possible. They don't believe that I can still have fun and save. And I say, trust me, yes, you can. My clients do it all the time, and I do too. But you do have to go through a process. You do have to, go through some exercises and get really real with yourself about the life you really want to create and the life you really want to have. I take my clients through an exercise where they identify their values. And I will tell you this: financial security is always on the list, their top values. And it's always the one that's underfunded. Everything else is funded very well. But the financial security isn't. And it's usually one of the values that are like ranked really high or in their list. So we just, balance things out a bit so that you can do both.
And I guess the other thing that really comes out in your story is, well, it's so many of our stories, is the kind of messaging we get from our families. And if there were financial difficulties growing up, maybe just in your generation, or maybe it was your parents' generation as well, how that can really affect what you believe is possible for yourself.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And until you start exposing yourself to other people's stories and seeing what's possible for others, then it just opens up your eyes. So for people to hear me and hear my story, like, oh my gosh, she was able to have some fun and still get her finances under control, like, oh, maybe that's something I could do too. So yeah.
Very inspirational, yeah, to hear other people's stories. So what about this idea that it's so easy to believe that you're stuck with the financial mistakes that you made in your past, or that in midlife that you're the most opportunity you had to make good money or to save good money or whatever is behind you, that you're running out of time to fix these mistakes? So those kinds of issues must come up a lot for you, right?
Absolutely. And here's what I will say. You know that saying, like, the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago, and the next best time is today. So we really have to just make ourselves be a little bit more future focused. I did a little calculation for you. So let's say you have someone that's listening right now and they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm 50 years old. I should have done it differently. I'm so far behind. I have, very little saved or not enough saved, right? Because sometimes you'll like read these articles or go online and they'll tell you where you should be. And it just makes you feel so discouraged. So let's take someone who's 50 years old. They haven't saved anything, not $1, but they decide, hey, I'm going to start today. I'm going to start investing $600 a month, and I'm going to do that until I'm 65 years old. They will have just under $229,000 in just 15 years.
Wow.
But here's the catch. They only put in 108,000 of that, and the rest is growth, compounding growth. That's like the magic of it. So I like to say, just start, just something. Let's let the past be in the past. We can tell ourselves a different story about the past, because when we dwell on it, we just perpetuate it. We keep doing the same things. Oh, I should have done it differently. And then you just still do nothing. So that's what I would say to anyone who's kind of beating themselves up about past decisions.
So good. What lessons did you learn from your whole experience with money, transitioning to this idea of helping women, coming from this situation where you had your own debt and it was kind of scary? What are your top lessons for other women right now?
I mean, the biggest lesson I think we can all take away is that we can do anything we put our minds to. Like literally, there's nothing that's impossible. If you just start and you just take one step at a time, you may not necessarily know how you're going from point A to Z, but you definitely know how you can get from A to B. Like I would have never been able to like guess or even imagine that I would be here right now.
Right.
Right. But it was only because I made a decision that I was going to free my family from all of that financial stress. And I was willing to do the first thing I needed to do that. And then I kept taking steps. And now here I am.
Amazing. And what's another lesson? I love asking this lesson question because my guests are so smart.
Yes, absolutely. The other one is do not try to be perfect at this. Because one of the things that happens is when you're trying to be perfect, as soon as you make a mistake, as soon as life happens, as soon as something don't go as planned, then you want to
And
give
Mean
up.
Girl, it's
And
Mean
that's
Girl
the,
too, is all over the place.
oh my gosh. And as soon as you quit, that's when you know, that's when you won't get there. But if you just roll with it, roll with the punches, and expect the punches, expect the mistakes, expect that you're going to have this beautiful plan. I teach my clients how to make spending plans. And you're going to have this amazing plan, and then life is going to happen, and then you're not going to be able to follow it perfectly. You can either use that as an opportunity to quit and say, see, I'm just bad with money. It's not going to work for me. Or you can use that as an opportunity to pivot and be grateful that you're even in a position that you can, roll with whatever came your way.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing about being stuck. It feels like it's a genetic defect sometime. Like whatever we're working on is just part of who we are. Um, and it just doesn't feel like it will be easy for the same person experiencing that stuckness to dig out of it or change their mindset enough that it will help guide them forward. And it really does start with your beliefs and believing in yourself to take that first step. That is a common theme for this podcast. Same thing when we're thinking about passion projects or what we want to do in retirement or how we want to design our next chapter. And you don't have to have the whole thing laid out. You just have to have a sense of where you're going, and you have to have the courage to take the first step. And I love that you pointed that out, because with money, it's like, no, I have to have gobs and gobs or I'm not successful. There's so many ways to think about success, and not having a stressful financial
Absolutely.
life is a great way to think about success. So I know that you have a free training. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And of course, give the link.
Absolutely. So my free training is called To Build Wealth Without Going on a Strict Budget. And the link is at germainefoley.com/wealth class. That's Germaine with a G, foley.com/wealth
And of course, I'll
class.
have that in the show notes, www.germainefoley.com/wealth class. Amazing. Is there anything else that was on your mind that you just have to share or you won't be able to sleep tonight?
Well, one of the things I just want to say is just like we just said it, but just start. Just give yourself the opportunity to change things. If you're feeling financial stress, if you're feeling like worried or like you're out of control financially, I want you to know you do not have to stay stuck there. There are so many reasons why you're there, and getting to the root causes of those reasons, it may take some time, but once you understand it, you'll definitely find your way out. I
Oh my
promise you.
gosh, Germaine, thank you so much. It was so great to meet you and to have you here so that you could tell your story. Your story is so relatable. And I just really appreciate your guidance for how to get unstuck with money, build wealth, and love your midlife. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for this episode. Wow, right? Your money mindset can really surprise you. Not just what you're thinking, but also the effect of the way it's showing up for you in midlife. I love how Germaine shared so authentically and encouraged you to think differently about moving forward with a financial plan that makes sense for you, especially one that's sustainable for you to attain your goals. So important. I loved her perspective and ideas, and I hope you got a lot out of this interview. So if this episode resonated with you and you're ready to stop waiting for what you want in life, come join me inside the Women in the Middle Academy. It's where we help you go from stuck and overwhelmed to clear, confident, and excited about your next chapter in life and in business. And we do this together by using my FUN framework. I've been teaching my FUN framework, that's F.U.N. framework, now for about 8 years or so, and dozens of clients have benefited from it. The F stands for finding your thoughts. The U stands for understanding what you want. And the N stands for nurturing your commitment to yourself. Together, it's a solid approach for creating the life that you want. And yes, you can do this now, even at your age. If you want to learn more, just grab a spot in my calendar and head over to womeninthemiddleacademy.com and book a momentum call with me to see if it's a good fit for you. And if you loved this conversation, please share this episode with a friend you know could benefit from it too. She may not know exactly where the podcast app is on her phone, so you may have to share that as well. Also, I have one more new thing I wanted to let you know about. It's a new midlife quiz to help you get unstuck. It's free, it's fun, and it's fast. Just go to www.midlifequiz.com and help yourself get the insight you need to go after your next chapter so you don't have regrets. Again, go to www.midlifequiz.com. Thanks so much for listening to the Women in the Middle show. My focus as your regret-proofing midlife coach is to help you waste less valuable time and get on with the good stuff. Remember, being the queen of your brain domain really is the best way to be. My friend, it is time to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating happiness, excitement, joy, and fulfillment that you crave. For show notes and links, go to www.suzyrosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 430. You'll also see a link there for my other show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.